60 Minutes with Angela starts right now.
It's 2 years into the administration of Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari. He emerged as a president after winning a hard-fought election on 29th May 2015. He was sworn in for a first term of 4 years. By the 29th of May this year, 2017, he would have done 2 years and will have 2 more years to go. How has he performed? Well, hello and welcome to the program. I'm Angela Ajitumobi. BOLADE OMONIJO is a member of the editorial board of Nigeria's Nation newspaper, and he joins me today on the program to give his 2 pence on the achievements of the Buhari administration. Well, thank you, Mr. Omonijo, for coming back on 60 Minutes with me. It's been quite a while.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to be here again.
All right, so we know that the president hinged his campaign on 3 points: the war against corruption, revamping the economy, and tackling insecurity.
Exactly.
How has he performed on these 3 counts?
It's true, he came up with that 3-point agenda when he was coming in, and Nigerians voted for him on account of this, because things were really bad on the point of security, especially the insurgency, which was new to our experience. You saw Boko Haram overrun the territories and hoisting the flag in parts of Nigerian territory. And they were able to abduct more than 200 girls from the secondary school, and nobody was able to apprehend anybody at that time. So it was quite horrible. And Nigerians felt, no, we cannot go ahead like this. The economy was failing badly. The administration of Goodluck Jonathan appeared to have no clue as to what to do at the moment. And then the corruption was everywhere, and that's even been confirmed these days. So he came in on that. Nigerians felt, yes, this is a man of integrity. This is a man who will change things. This is a man we will trust. This is a man who is well prepared for the office. This is a man who has contested thrice and lost.
Yes.
We love his tenacity, and we see his pattern lifestyle. We could vote for this one to make a change. Let me start with corruption. He has been fighting the war against corruption. There's no doubt about that.
Yes.
But my own view, and he's been achieving some level of success. It will not be fair to say he has failed on that score. Totally. But I cannot see systems in place. We run government on the basis of systems and processes.
Yes.
I can't see that.
Strong institutions.
Institutions are even fairly there because Obasanjo was able to put in place the ICPC and the EFCC. It's a question of how you now design it. What do you do? Because justice is supposed to be for all.
Yes.
It's supposed to be in a way that everybody knows that justice is blind, and that it doesn't know friend, it doesn't know foe. And so everybody checks himself. But we've not seen much of that in terms of the systems and processes. But we've seen staccato approach. Yes, something is wrong, unleash the EFCC on them.
Yes.
Sometimes we have problems too. What should the EFCC do? What should DSS do? Where should the police come in? We don't know all those ones. There is that kind of confusion which you don't expect. If you have confusion and even the institutions are fighting.
Yes, interagency rivalry.
Interagency rivalry.
Yes.
And the president, who is the commander-in-chief, is unable to call them to order. And they're able to make such a show in the National Assembly, depicting the executive as incompetent, because that's where I see it. That DSS writes about the EFCC chairman, says he's not competent to hold the office. This one says this. The NSA is unable to do anything. The president says, okay, I'm calling them. At the end of the day, nothing comes. It comes before the Senate again, and the DSS says the same thing. It shows that something is wrong.
Yes.
As far as we are talking about systems and processes that could actually show us that we are getting somewhere, I have not seen much of that. But we've seen that, yes, they've been able to detect some people who stole our money in the past, and they've gone after them.
Is it because not everybody within that administration of President Buhari is on the same page with him as far as the war on corruption is concerned, that we are not seeing the full effect or the full change that Nigerians hoped to see in electing him?
Yes, naturally I would even expect that if things have gone as bad as they have in Nigeria, that there's no way you could pick a whole cabinet of saints and all that. You know, you are not likely to have that.
Yes.
But I expected that he would be the change agent, that he will be able to weigh in. He will be able to say, look, if any of you runs foul of the law,
I will come down hard.
Hard on you. And you make an example of one or two persons. Then everybody will sit up. But he's not been able to do that. The SGF matter is still there.
Yes.
That you give him a soft landing and said you are setting up, he should step aside and so on. It's neither here nor there. So, I mean, I'm not happy with it that way. But it's 100% better than what you had under Jonathan. Under Jonathan, it was a free rein. You could do anything and get out with it.
How would you say he has performed as far as insecurity is concerned?
Yes, as far as security is concerned, let's look at it again. If I talk of the insurgency war, the war against Boko Haram, as far as I'm concerned, they have done very well. I won't agree with them that they've been totally rooted out, no. Yes. But I did expect they would do so within such a short period. They were giving us a ridiculous timeline of 6 months. No, it doesn't work like that. But they've done very well as far as I'm concerned with that.
Yes.
No. But there are other things. We've not seen the headsman thing. It's part of insecurity.
Yes.
Life is insecure. Headsmen just do whatever they like in all parts of the country. Whether in Cross River, in Enugu, in Agatuland, in the southwest, in Okeogu. You have them everywhere. In Adamawa, they just go there, they behead people, they kill them, and the state is unable to do anything to bring them in, to bring them to book. On that score, I think they scores very poorly.
Right.
As far as then, if we now talk about kidnapping,
there's still unrest in the Niger Delta. There's still the demand for Biafra. Are we going to count all those?
In fairness to them, the unrest in Niger Delta has gone down somewhat, and that you can see the proof of that.
Yes.
In terms of the production of oil.
Yes.
Now we've gone to about 2.4. At the best of time, it was about 2.2. At the time, it went down to about 1.4.
Is that unrest going down because of the series of interventions we've seen from the vice president, now acting president?
Absolutely.
His regular visits to the place, the coming on stream now of the Maritime University, contrary to what many thought, that the Maritime University was a dead project?
Absolutely. But that's what we ought to have done from day one. We wasted too much time. It was a problem that we needed to attend to. We didn't. President Buhari was saying that he would treat them like Boko Haram. He would come down hard. And it doesn't work like that.
Yes.
No? But thank God that at least he got converted to the point of reason along the line. I wouldn't say that, well, that I praise the VP who became acting president.
Yes.
Because in fairness to the administration, ever before President Buhari went on his first vacation, the VP had gone for the first time to the Niger Delta. So the process had started. He just continued with it. But the vigor with which he pursued it, the way the people saw him
and received him.
Then you could see that, well, something was happening, and we could see the results. So we could see that. The Biafra thing too, I think is because the administration did not handle it well. Biafra is a problem. I mean, it's a challenge to nationhood.
Yes.
I believe so. But even at that, it's something we could have handled better.
Do you think the Igbos, people of the southeast, are marginalized within the Buhari administration?
I don't know when they were not marginalized. They say Buhari has marginalized them. When they were not marginalized under Goodluck Jonathan, that they claimed to be one of their own somewhat,
yes.
What did they get? They still claim that the roads are bad. Did Buhari come to approve the roads? What did they get? What did they have? How better were they within the nation? No, I don't think so. I agree that after the war and Gawon came up with the 3 R's,
yes.
We expected that the reconstruction, rehabilitation, and all that would have helped a lot. By now, we should have forgotten to a large extent about the effect of that. But it lingers, unfortunately, both in the minds of the Biafrans and on the side of those who thought that they were victorious.
Yes.
Because it's almost always there. Unfortunately so. I expected that we would have gone far beyond that, but I don't see whether it was under the Babangida regime military or it was Jonathan or under Obasanjo or under this. I don't see what the Igbos will say that they have gained. The Nigerian poor people have always been the loser under the governments, and that is the truth. The elite, whether the elite of Igbo, they cannot
regardless of tribe.
When they come together, they go to their clubs in the night. And they know what they do there. So it's not about that. When they are competing, my private jet is better than yours. We always see that. So it's not. So it's not about that. Yes, the younger ones, the hotheads, the poor ones, and so on, they will complain. They go on the roads that have totally failed. I've been to the East. I schooled in the East in the 80s, and I've been there a couple of times in recent times.
What's the difference?
It was much better then. Things were getting progressively worse, and nobody was attending to them. In those days, I was in Suka, 1980, 81, 82, and all that. Yeah. And if I went by road, everything you knew how long it would take you. You knew the road. You didn't have to go and take Panadol, overdose of Panadol to be able to be nursed back to life. But now you can't just go. If you go by road, for 1-2 days you'll be knocked off. No, we know that.
With body pains.
Yes, but those who have found a way around it,
yes.
Those who have who have been able to be part of sharing the loot of the nation, they could afford to either charter flights or buy their own private jets, or at worst go by helicopter, so that they don't know what is happening on the ground. Everywhere in the country, north, south, east,
yes.
Everywhere. That's what we have.
Everyone is marginalized. And as far as the economy is concerned, how has he performed? Unfortunately, he has come in to be president at a time when the price of crude oil is so low as compared to the price under the administration of Goodluck Jonathan. Should that be a factor that anyone should be considering, or should we just be expecting him to deliver on the economy?
The truth of the matter is, like you said, things were very bad when he came in. And we've got to factor that in. It won't be fair to blame everything on him. We lost about 60-65% of our revenue. Any country in the world, whether it is US or anything, that loses that much, will shake. There's no doubt about that. The price of oil went down. Oil production also
went down.
At the same time. There was a very steep decline. So it was bound to shake us up. The government could not easily adjust to the demands. That I can say. But I think the administration also was appallingly slow in responding to issues. It took our president about 6-7 months to come up with his ministers.
Yes, couldn't that be due to political permutations?
Is it the first time we have political permutations?
Well, the first time we've had four parties coming in to form a merger, and all these four fighting to be the soul of the APC.
It is natural. It's a presidential system. The president calls the shots. The buck stops on his table. It's natural. People will always jostle. Interests to be balanced.
Yes.
This one is from my father's side. I will have to do that. This one is the DG of my campaign organization. That one was the chairman at the convention.
Yes.
Oh yes, they are stakeholders. This one is a national leader. That one is they have this. But then the buck stops on someone's table. And they had some time. They had about 2 months before he came into office at all to juggle things in his mind and on the table. And thereafter, within another 1-2 months, he should have come up with his list. We could not lose any time. You don't go to battle without putting your army in place.
Yes.
So, I mean, I didn't see the excuse there. There will always be. And thereafter, putting the economic team in place was another problem. I didn't really see a very serious economic team that the president was able to put together. Yes, the constitution says the VP is the chairperson at the National Economic Council, where you have all the governors and co, thereby the sort of coordinator of the economy, so to say. But you have the Minister of Finance, the Minister of National Planning. You have a number of those ones there. But 60-70% of them are lawyers. I'm not saying lawyers cannot know a little about something.
About business and the economy.
Yes, you needed hardcore economists also who would be able to juggle things and say that if you do this, this is what you call. And you saw a dysfunction even for some time between the fiscal policies and the monetary policies. So the CBN was going this way, the Ministry of Finance was going that way. That's not the way you react during war.
Are they all aligning now?
I believe so. I believe they are beginning to. And there was quite some heavy criticism around that. But I think they could still do far better. Things are a little better now.
Yes.
And we could see the results too. The exchange rate is firming up a little, as it were.
Yes.
Then you could find out that the prices of things are about. Then the manufacturing people are also saying, okay, things are a little better. There are certain things that are still very important that we've not been able to find a way around. Like power.
Yes.
It's so crucial.
We'll take our first break now. When we come back, we'll start off from the point you've mentioned now, electricity. So join us again after the break.
Nice question.
Angela, that's a great question.
It's a good question.
It is difficult to respond to that question.
That is a serious question. Angela, that is a very great question. Great question, Angela.
You know, Angela, that's a very difficult question.
That's a great question, Angela.
Okay, that's a great question.
Angela, that's a tough one for me.
That's a good question. Good question.
60 Minutes with Angela. Again, answers to every question you always wanted to ask.
Welcome back. It's still 60 Minutes with me, Angela Ajetumobi. On my hot seat today, BOLADE OMONIJO is a member of the editorial board of Nigeria's Nation newspaper. Everyone recants about how the former governor of Lagos State, Babatunde Fashola, who is now the Minister for Power, Works and Housing, had said in the past that any serious government can solve the problem of electricity in 6 months. But he's now in position. He has seen the limitations of the power reforms that we had. If this administration, in my opinion, campaigned on the platform of change, what stops them from revisiting those reforms if the reforms are not working for us?
I agree with you. They should be able to revisit it. But it's not that easy too, because there are agreements that are signed, and some of them have legal implications. Some of them would involve losing a heavy money because they take you to court. And so you have to find a way around it somehow, in such a way that the country will also not lose. But I agree, whichever way, we voted them to think.
Yes.
We voted them to solve things, not to come and give us loads of excuses. And that's what they are doing. In most parts of Nigeria, you hardly get 5 hours of electricity supply a day. In some places, some days, you don't have at all. I mean, that's unacceptable. It's unacceptable.
I mean, we've been told that it will send a negative message to possible investors who intend to come into the country. And my argument is, what message then is it sending if the reforms are not working, electricity is not improving? It is obvious that most of those who bought into the reforms lacked the capacity to deliver on the things that they thought they were buying into. And nobody, as the minister said recently, no one forced them to buy into this business. Where do we go from here? This is a country is trying to generate employment. We all agree, if electricity is steady, it will generate naturally some form of employment.
To some extent, I've had cause to discuss with some people and play an advocate
Yes.
for the distribution companies to some extent.
Yes.
In fairness to them too, they also had their own projections. Yes, we'll be able to get to supply from the generation companies. Then when we do that, for us to break even, we will have to distribute this quantum, and then it will come at this cost. They will make some profit and all that. In fairness to them,
Yes.
the generating companies are not up to task.
All those projections fell flat.
They fail. That's the truth, because gas supply became a problem too. Many of them are thermal stations.
Yes.
And they couldn't generate. So if you can't generate, then you can't supply. The acquisition company is in the hands of the government. And we have also been told that the transmission lines are not good enough. Much of the things that we even load, they leak before they get to the
destination. Yes.
So you have a lot of problems. But I agree that when we look at also the technical side, it doesn't appear as if the distribution companies really knew what they are up to. Whatever it is, I said, when you have government, the duty of government is to confront problems and challenges. There will always be, in one form or the other. In any case, there is a challenge of development that is constantly there. Yes. There's a catch-up that we need to do with the developed countries. You see South Africa in Africa here. It is far ahead of us in terms of talk of power and things like that. Even Ghana is beginning to say we are here.
Yes.
I mean, that's a problem. If countries like Ghana and Co begin to claim to be either better than Nigeria or the same status with Nigeria, how come you call yourself giants of Africa?
And talking about development, I was reading the Sokoto State Governor, Aminu Tambuwal, saying the federal government should review the revenue sharing formula to favor state governments and local governments, because that would enable states to embark on more development projects while the federal government should receive less. Do you agree with him?
Absolutely. It's been on the table for quite some time. Fiscal federalism, that's the only way to go. It's the only way to go. But whose duty is it to do it? It's not the federal government. No.
Whose duty?
It's the duty of the federation. The Federal Republic of Nigeria comprises of the federating units. It's in the constitution.
Yes.
The exclusive list is so large. It's the largest you have anywhere in the world. So to trim it is the duty of the entire citizenry acting through the National Assembly. The National Assembly members came from the various states, so what is stopping us? People like Tambuwal should not just wring their hands and say the federal government is not doing something about it. The federal government is the beneficiary. They will be too reluctant to surrender their advantages, their privileges. Yes. No, you're in a privileged position.
And if the federal government exists at the pleasure of the states in a true federation, what's stopping the states from pushing for this?
That's exactly what I'm saying. They meet at the level of the National Economic Council, for example. They have the senators from the various states. They have members of the House of Reps from the various states. How come they couldn't hold meetings? How come they couldn't agree at something? How come they could not make sure that this country begins to move? The country is not moving because of the lopsidedness. Power is tilted in favor of the federal government. And that is not the idea. That's not Montesquieu's idea. That's not the idea of the proponents of a federal system. No. It's supposed to be composed of federating units.
Yes.
America, when it was coming together, the states came together. They decided what power to retain, what power to cede to the
federal government.
In Nigeria, when we were also starting, we had the various constitutional conferences, and we had the 3 regions, later 4 regions.
Yes.
And much power devolved to the regions, which were the federating units.
Yes.
Along the line, the military came in. The military is a central command organization. They were able to collapse all those things, and then the commander-in-chief gives instruction, all the governors and everybody, they fall in line. We should have found their way around. We don't have anybody to blame but ourselves.
When we were talking about corruption earlier on, you mentioned that you still had problems with the matter of the secretary to the government of the federation. Absolutely. What kind of problems do you have with that matter?
The man has been accused of using his position.
Yes, but he's presumed innocent
Because
until proven guilty.
that's why I said he's been accused. He's not been found guilty. He's been accused of tampering with process. He's been accused of influencing, because he has said that he did not award any contract.
Yes.
There's a tenders board, but he's been accused of influencing the award of contract over invoicing and all that. He's been accused of those. Yes, it is true that he's presumed innocent somewhat, but when the prima facie case is established, we've seen how the government has gone after others. The judges, for example, none of them is guilty yet. They went after them. They broke into the houses. They brought them. They charged them before court. And they were made to at least step aside while the cases were on. And all that. What stopped our president from doing the same thing with regards to the SGF? Why did it take him so long? So long and so much cry from the National Assembly, blackmail from the National Assembly for him to do what he needed to do.
I interviewed Mr. Adeshino, the special advisor on media to the president on this matter, and his statement to me then was that, yes, the Senate did inform the president about their concerns regarding Babachir Lawal, but the president did say that he would need further clarification. For instance, the Senate didn't give the SGF an opportunity to defend himself. The Constitution guarantees that.
Absolutely.
As a right to fair hearing. Secondly, that it would appear the report the Senate forwarded to the president was a minority report signed only by 3 people out of 9 members. What was wrong in mentioning those 2?
Those were excuses, my sister. The truth of the matter is that even if one person signed, even if they didn't get up to that point, there are executive agencies to check out these things. The president is the chief executive. He has the EFCC, he has the police, he has the DSS, he has them. They could check up. There is an allegation, a weighty allegation about somebody who stands in a vantage position in your government. So what stopped him? Did he have to wait until some report dropped on his laps before he took action? No. He could have said, look, this is emanating from the camp of the National Assembly. We don't know their motives. That's neither here nor there. Mr. EFCC, I want a report in 1 week. Why did they have to wait? All those ones are exclusive.
You mentioned the words soft landing. You know, in empaneling this presidential investigative panel that the vice president or acting president now is leading with the Attorney General and the National Security Advisor, I wondered why we needed a panel to look into the matter when we have anti-corruption agencies already, and what value then does the vice president's panel bring to the matter? He is not a court. He can't pronounce any guilt. Do we need a panel to push the EFCC or the Special Fraud Unit or the ICPC to do its job?
I agree with you. I don't see the need for that. I don't see why the president had to go that way. It's still part of saying that you have different moods of treating different persons. There's no fidelity to systems and to the law. Everybody, including the president, should owe their allegiance to the Constitution and to the nation. And whatever the law of the land says should apply to everybody.
Irrespective
of who you are. But we are not seeing that, unfortunately. There have been allegations also about the chief of staff, even though maybe that one is not as pronounced as that of
the chief of staff being Abba Kyari.
There have been allegations. They are aware about whether right or wrong. They are aware also about the chief of army staff. All these things are there. We should not be left in doubt that we have somebody who is single-minded in his pursuit of justice, of revamping the system, of setting Nigeria back on the path of recovery. We should be convinced that this is the way to go. We've not really seen that.
And the matter of Magu, the representation of Magu's name as the chairman of the EFCC, many lawyers I've spoken with say the president should not bring back Magu to the Senate. The Senate, in rejecting Magu not once but twice, means that he will never be considered for the position. But on the other side, people are standing on the law that allows the president to nominate and the Senate to approve, doesn't specify how many times a person can be presented. We've seen in the past the former President Obasanjo presenting and representing and representing the late Aborishade Babalola, as a minister at that time. Where do you stand on this?
The Magu thing for me is a little more delicate, a little more complicated than the others.
Right.
On the one hand, I see Magu as somebody who has done quite some work. On the one hand, someone I would love to see carry along, at least for the entirety of this term. I would have loved that. But on the other hand, I don't blame the Senate at all.
Why not?
They could have their motive. Every human being has motives for one thing or the other.
Yes.
But they have a very good weapon. For them to screen Mr. Magu, they asked the DSS that screens people, that checks out people, to check out his background for them and let them know whether he's suitable for the office. The DSS is an executive body. The head of the DSS was appointed by Mr. President, who also nominated Mr. Magu. And the DSS said, look, this man is guilty of this, is guilty of this, is guilty of this, he's not suitable.
Did anyone ask for this report before the name was sent to the Senate? I always assumed, Mr. Omonijo, that before your name even gets sent to the Senate for screening, some kind of screening has been done secretly and privately. They've checked you out, before the president makes that public move to send your name. Why would it be afterwards?
That's where it should be. It should be that it should have been checked before it was forwarded. But nobody has been able to even tell us what the executive did with regards to Mr. Magu before forwarding the name. Because to make it even funnier somehow,
yes, that
you checked and you said this man is good enough, and the president forwarded his name, you now turned back to say no,
he's not good enough.
Or on the other hand, that you told Mr. President, we have these reservations, and the president waved it aside and forwarded the name. That would also still be funny.
Could it be politics at play? Could it be the result of this interagency rivalry we talk about?
Whatever it may be, somebody is declaring a house. Whatever it may be. In every cabinet, you have some rivalry.
Yes.
Everywhere in the world, you see, everybody is fighting for the ears of the big man. It's there. I don't mind all those ones.
Yes.
They have a right to play their politics. But somebody should be able to say, no, you cannot do this under my watch.
Yes.
Failure of leadership. I know the shenanigans of the Senate. Absolutely, I understand it. I know where they are coming from.
I mean, do you expect, reasonably speaking now, that a Senate that, as in the words of another senator, that is being harassed by Ibrahim Magu, the acting chairman of the EFCC, do we all really expect the Senate to sit down and approve him? This is a man who has even arrested the wife of the Senate president. Does the presidency think the Senate will approve him?
For political consideration, if I were Mr. President, I don't agree that there's only one person who can fight the war against corruption in Nigeria. At this level, I would just say, okay, we have a mess on our hands. Let's look for somebody else. It's not a loss of face.
Or ego.
Or ego. The Senate will then gloat and say, yes, we've won. That's their business. But look for somebody else who is even stronger than Magu. Yeah. The executive messed up everything as far as I'm concerned from the beginning. In the first instance, why appoint Mr. Magu as acting chairman for up to 6 months before forwarding the name?
For so long.
For so long. Why? So which gave the opportunity for him to step on toes. Anybody in that office will step on toes if he wants to do a good job. If it was at the beginning of this administration that the name was forwarded and people had not seen him in action, the Senate probably would not have this much to say.
They wouldn't have known what he could do.
What he could do. But the government did not do that. The executive didn't do that then. Then Mr. Magu went into office and was doing his work somehow.
Yes.
And the Senate says, which is made up of many former governors who have wrecked the economies of their states and all that. And they said, no, we can't take this. This man cannot. Going forward, this man will wreck all of us.
Yes.
So I can understand where they are coming from. But I'm saying that the executive gave them the weapon with which to do that. The Yorubas will say, in other words, the tortoise has its own sword already. When you
Yes.
want to kill it, you use its sword to kill it, which is just at its own, the shell that it has there.
Join us again after the break.
Nice question.
Angela, that's a great question.
It's a good question.
It is difficult to respond to that question.
That is a serious question.
Angela, that is a very great question.
Great question, Angela.
You know, Angela, that's a very difficult question.
That's a great question, Angela.
Okay, that's a great question.
Angela, that's a tough one for me.
That's a good question. Good question.
60 Minutes with Angela. Again, answers to every question you always wanted to ask.
Welcome back. My concluding moments now with BOLADE OMONIJO. Do you think that this administration has eroded the goodwill that it had when it came into office on the 29th of May 2015?
To many Nigerians, yes. A few of us, we still give the benefit of the doubt.
Why?
A lot of things went wrong. I think they were disconcerted when they came in as to where do we even start, where do we begin.
Were they overwhelmed?
I believe so in some cases. You may not excuse it, but I think they were overwhelmed. I believe that they are beginning to accept again for the health thing that came into the mix. That's another thing altogether.
Yes.
I think they were beginning to put things in place. They were beginning to get their rhythm along the line. And that's, we begin to see some results in terms of the economy, for example. The security thing, even the herdsmen that we say they've not been able to, that's almost degenerating into a religious and tribal thing. Even that one, you begin to see one or two people have been apprehended that are being tried now.
Yeah.
So maybe, I mean, it's midterm. Midterm is a vantage point to look back, but it's also a vantage point to look ahead and say, what can we still do? To many Nigerians, they are really disappointed with what they've got. Sometimes it's out of ignorance, because if you lost as much revenue as we did, and if things were as bad as they were, there was no process in place in terms of the civil service, in terms of anything in the country, it might take some time to get them ready. I believe it could have been earlier than now. But better late than never. It appears they are beginning to pick their steps.
You think it's time to change the cabinet?
I would be very, very surprised if the president does not shuffle his cabinet, if he does not drop quite a number of people. In the first instance, apart from whether they performed well or have not performed well, even for the effect,
the shock effect of it.
Yes, the public has an impression already, a perception of a non-performing government. You've got to respond to that. Public opinion is against them, and like you said, we both agreed in terms of goodwill, much of it has been expended, so you needed to recharge that goodwill. And the way you can tell people that yes, we are ready to move is to do some very serious surgical operation, and that you can say, okay, let's see what they are up to again.
The new team will be up to.
I think I will be surprised if they don't.
You mentioned the president's health challenge. Where do you stand on the matter of him being a public figure? We heard Professor Wole Soyinka say that, when you become president, the matter of your health can no longer be a private matter. You think now that he's back in the UK undergoing further treatment, we should get regular daily updates on his health?
Ordinarily, that's what we should have. That's what happens in democracies, in advanced democracies. When Reagan was shot and all, we had regular briefing. Ordinarily. But there's so much mischief in the land and in the air that anything you do, you cannot please some people. They will just manipulate.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Exactly. But I think going forward, we should have standards. When you're a public figure, ordinarily you've lost the right to that privacy that we talk so much about. Because your well-being affects the well-being of the nation. The health of the president impinges on the health of the nation. So to that extent, you shouldn't keep anything from us.
If we're not told the nature of his illness or giving updates about his progress in his treatment, do you think we have any right to complain when rumors come up saying that he has passed on?
No, we have no right. Because once you don't have information, there would certainly be something that will fill the communication channel. And that is speculation, rumors. It will come. It's natural. It's a question of how you manage your information. I'm not blaming the information managers. No, I'm not. Because it is what you tell them that they can. If you don't inform them, they can't inform the public. If the president chooses to keep everything to his chest, then what could they do? They wouldn't go on their own to go and become investigative journalists. That's not their duty. It's to manage whatever is available to them. But I think those who have the ears of the president should tell him that the way he's going is not helping himself.
And on the matter of him transmitting this last time, you know, I say much ado about coordination. Was it necessary to add that in the letter of transmitting, saying the vice president will coordinate the activities of government?
Well, you said it's much ado about coordinate. I think it's much ado about nothing. As far as I am concerned, whatever anybody may be up to, we are talking of intrigues and so on. You cannot have a political setting where there will be no intrigues. Even if it's a one-party system, within the same party there will be several tendencies. So that one is neither here nor there for me. The important thing is that he said in accordance with Section 145. Section 145 came out of the experience we had with Yaradua. Section 145 it does not leave any room for the president to tell us what the VP will, what the acting president will do.
Yes, what his duties will be.
What his duties will be.
I think a lot of people assume that the president is the one who declares the vice president as acting president.
And that's not what the Constitution says. The Constitution says once the president is going on vacation, he transmits to the National Assembly a letter to that effect, and then the vice president will automatically become the acting president. Even the Senate, the House of Reps, they don't have a say in it.
They're not doing any declaration.
No declaration. It's just, we are informing you. Immediately that information gets to them, then the VP becomes the acting president. And until another communication comes, he remains the acting president. That is clear. If the president even had said that the vice president, in my absence, will only have the power to coordinate government departments and ministries. Even if he had said so, it will be null and void.
It won't have any effect whatsoever.
Because the president derives his powers from the Constitution. The acting president will be deriving his own power from the Constitution. The Senate derives its own power from the Constitution. So it's much ado about nothing, as far as I'm concerned.
Of course, you've been following the launch of the anti-corruption book written by Kogi State Senator Dino Malai and the speech of the Senate President Bukola Saraki. He says that Nigeria is not winning the corruption war because, and I'm quoting him now, I am convinced that we have favored punishment over deterrence. The key area of prevention is to make it difficult for stolen money to find a home. We must review our approaches by building our institutions to make it difficult for people to carry out corrupt practices. We must fight corruption with sincerity and not fight symptoms. He also talked about the sensationalization of the corruption war as being unnecessary and counterproductive. And I thought to myself, he's right about everything he's written, isn't he?
Oh, he's right, but it's not sweet in his mouth.
Why not?
It's not sweet in his mouth because he himself appears to have been some form of symbol of corruption in the country. As governor of Kwara, as chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum, president of the Senate, with regards to the Paris Club refund, declaration of assets, a whole lot of things in which he himself is meshed, makes those things unsuitable coming from him. It's true. I said it earlier on that we needed to have system, we needed to have processes, we needed to have institutions, and those ones should operate irrespective of personalities, which appears to be what we have been doing. I agree with that. But at the same time, the kind of people who came up and who have found themselves in very, very important positions and are therefore able to join forces with the enemies of states, they make things much more difficult for the government of the
If I agree with you that it's not sweet coming from his mouth, can't we look at it from the angle that, well, having been there and experienced, you know, some of these things, he's been taken to court by the Code of Conduct Bureau, he's had problems with the EFCC, and he's turning around now to say we need to make it difficult for people to carry out corrupt practices. Can't we say he's saying that from his own experience?
Let me give you one very short story, and that's about the church. I remember very well, there was a time a bishop came to a particular church, and it was unscheduled, and the priest of the church was preaching. The bishop did not come into the church. He stayed in the vestry, in an office, if you like, and he was hearing everything through the microphone. And when he came after the service, he called the priest and said, "That sermon you preached was very good, but the noise of your character made it impossible for the people to hear what you were saying." So it's possible that you say things and people hear a different thing altogether coming from that personality. It's like making, if Anini were not dead or Yenusi were not dead, and then he comes in to preach for us, and it's not as if we have seen a radical turnaround of a Saul of Tarsus. If you have seen a change, well, maybe, but if you've not seen it, there is a case in court, and you've had the defense trying to stall trial as much as possible, taking moot points up to the Supreme Court and coming down just to buy time and to waste time, and you are giving us the impression that you are part of the problem and not part of the solution.
Yes.
You cannot come back and tell us that you are providing solutions to the problem. Well, you are part of the problem.
And what do you say to the matter of the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, who says he is sad at the way his family is being harassed by the Buhari administration?
We are all sad at what his family did to Nigeria. So some of us are not sad at what the government is doing to his family. We are sad about what has become of the state of the federation, of what he left of the state of the federation. The shape of state was almost totally wrecked under him. And it's unfortunate. It's good that Buhari is a man of integrity, and to some extent he has not touched him personally. A lot of things hover around him that somebody else, if you had a Jerry Rawlings, they probably would have hauled him into prison himself. But nobody is suggesting that, nobody is advocating it. But I think he should leave it at that. Nobody is, even his wife, nobody has harassed her.
You don't consider the seizing of her money legitimately given to her as gifts from visitors to the presidential villa as harassment?
Well, that's good. She should also be able to prove who are those who gave her the money and from where they got the money. If you look at it, at the beginning, they didn't go for patience. They didn't even go. At first, they were probing some companies, and they picked those who were seen as the executives of those companies. It was she that came out and said, "My money, I'm involved in this." So it's not as if they went out looking for her. I think the government deliberately wanted to leave out the former president and his wife. Even though many people still don't even agree with that. They believe that appaling, partridges are the same. They should be treated different, the same way, that the law is no respecter of persons. That if a minister was a thief, he should be tried. If a governor was a thief, he should be tried. If a president was a bigger thief, he should also be tried.
Yes, but our precedent, it's not done. No one has ever charged a former president or head of state in our environment for corruption or for any reason whatsoever.
To some extent, you are right. To some extent. But we've never really had it this bad. Maybe under IBB. But to a large extent, we never had it this bad. Under Gawan was considered so much of a gentleman. Such that even when he was in school at Warwick University, he needed support to pay his fees and all that. It's not as if you don't see mansions, whether hilltop or downhill, here and there, about him. No. Shagari and Ekweme, they were locked up under Buhari as military head of state. At the end of the day, they discovered that you couldn't trace anything to them at all. That Ekweme actually left that government poorer than he went into it. We've had decent people in this country. Well, Abacha could not be charged to court because He had been
He
charged
was
to the
a
higher.
strong man.
Yeah, he had been charged to the highest court before another government could come in.
Yes.
Shonekan was not really in government. He was not in power. He was FIDI head. He was interim. He sat there for a while.
Yes.
So to a large extent, maybe OBJ, people have said a few things about OBJ. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo remains a strong man. Nobody has actually said a lot of things about the money spent on power under him and so on. So we've not been able to trace anything to him.
Do you think this President Buhari will be the first, and will he charge Goodluck Jonathan to court?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Everything shows that he doesn't want to go that way. I just hope that Jonathan will not say, come and pick me. Because if he says, come and pick me.
Taunt him.
Yeah, if he taunts him, if he comes back and comes down hard on the administration, and his baggage will be brought back. That's the only thing. Others, I don't think so.
Thank you very much, Mr. Omonijo, for coming back on 60 Minutes with me today.
Thank you, my sister.
And thank you for watching. I'm Angela Ajetumobi.